Hello, welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism, a continuation of series number 105, the Encyclopedia Judaica. This book is a little synopsis I acquired by trying to get some information on the Encyclopedia Judaica. Apparently first published in 1971, 16-volume set. Published in New York by Macmillan and in Israel by Cater. So what I've done is went out and searched for some of the encyclopedias themselves, and I've acquired 4, and I have 2 more coming in the mail. I learned about this from one of my viewers of my videos who told me about Harry Hubbard and his videos, who I thought was a relation to Ron Hubbard, but apparently that commenter said that's not the case, he's not related. So I acquired some of the encyclopedia editions themselves. Quite heavy books. And I thought I would start out with an interesting topic, the Kabbalah. And as usual, I've read a lot, highlighted a lot, underlined a lot, learned some new words, looked up some new topics, Tree of Life, many names of God, emanations of God, called the 10 Sephirot. So let's see what else I got here for pictures. More you can see that I've read. Got about 4 or 5 pages into this. It got crazy. You can see all my underlining. And another kind of 10 Sephirot. If you pay attention to that image, you'll see there are 10 lines starting from the center. One shape, then another shape, then like an L, and another L, and then a U, and another U. 10 lines. Different ways. Apparently, initials, letters of the name of each Sephirot, apparently different emanations or names of God, maybe? You can see I got a little bit to read, so why don't I get reading? I think you should find this as fascinating as I did, trying to get to the question, what the heck is going on in the world? What's with 9/11 and the assault on all of the Middle East, apparently depopulating the whole area? Either running those people out of there where they have to immigrate to other countries, or they're all dying in the wars. So who wants to depopulate the Middle East? Why isn't this the place that is the historic homeland for like the Anunnaki? The ancient monuments, the pyramids, the Sphinx, the big stones at Baalbek, Lebanon. Lots of ancient history there. So what's that got to do with the Kabbalah? And what is the Kabbalah? I've purchased books in the past and read them, and came away really not knowing any more than I did when I started reading the book, after I finished it. So maybe looking into the Judaica Encyclopedia. Interesting cover on this thing. Come ye and let us go to the mountain of the Lord, of the house of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in the path. It's a little more visible on this thing. And we will walk in his path, for out of Zion shall up forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So now called, occupied by the state of Israel. So here we go. Introduction. General notes. Kabbalah. Quite heavy book here. Is the tradition and most commonly used term for the esoteric teachings of Jerusalem and for the Jewish mysticism, especially the forms which it assumed in the Middle Ages from the 1100s onward. So it kind of was developed around the 1100s, right after 10,000 years after Jesus was born. In its wider sense, it signifies all the successive, esoteric, secret movements in Judaism that evolved from the end of the period of the Second Temple and became active factors in the history of Israel. So that sounds kind of important. If you know what's going on in the world right now, even in the slightest, we all realize that Israel and other Zionists, all Jews are not Zionists, they don't want to rule the world from Mount Zion in Israel, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. But a lot of Jewish people are Zionists who do think that God, some entity, said that they're going to rule the world from Mount Zion in Israel, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem being the major cities. So if they believe this, then we can see the happenings in the last 100 or 200 years, including 9/11, the revolution in France, World War I, World War II. All these were steps towards this new world order, this new age, this new paradigm. So it says right here, the things I just read, it started around the period, Kabbalah, after the Second Temple was destroyed, and became active factors in the history of Israel. Kabbalah is a unique phenomenon and should not generally be equated with what is known in the history of religion as mysticism. So what is mysticism? Wouldn't mysticism be somebody who studies the mystery of different things that happen in the world, science, magic, witchcraft, mysticism, things that are unknown to everybody else, and there are people who study this, they become magicians. So should not generally be equated with what is known in history of religion as mysticism. Now as we move on here, we're going to find out that they keep on comparing the Kabbalah to mysticism and saying that Kabbalah is mysticism. And they do mention magic. It is mysticism, in fact. There you go, right there, third sentence. So they say it's generally not to be equated with mysticism, page 490. Then they say it is mysticism, in fact. But at the same time, it is both exotericism and theosophy. So what is theosophy? What is exotericism? Again, these are people who seek knowledge. Gnosticism. And they find secret knowledges that they do not want to share with the rest of us. Knowledge how to influence other people, how to manifest things and beings out of thin air. Magic, witchcraft, and so much more. And even in the Bible we know Jesus multiplied fish and bread to feed the people. He healed people. He raised the dead. He cast out demons. We know angels are mentioned in the Bible. So there's a lot of things that people do not know that I believe that people should know. And I think the Kabbalah, this topic, needs to be investigated. And what better place to get it from than in the Encyclopedia Judaica, by the people in generally who are the ones who are practicing and studying and teaching Kabbalah. If the term is restricted to the profound yearning for direct human communication with God through annihilation of individuality, then only a few manifestations of Kabbalah can be designated as such, because few Kabbalists sought this goal, let alone formulated it openly as their final aim. So the people who are practicing, studying, seeking the knowledge of Kabbalah really don't want other people to know. We have a lot of people in Hollywood into the occult, seeing psychics, meditating, and having advisors like Madonna into the Kabbalah. And we know Hollywood is full of activities of the Illuminati with the symbols, the pyramid, putting the hand over one eye, and many other seemingly Illuminati, and I say satanic, occultic, Kabbalah teachings. Essentially, these three elements were perceived through contemplation and illumination. So illumination would be to learn things, to be illuminated, and only initiates that are chosen get to be taught the secrets. And even in the Freemasons or the other lodges, Masonic lodges, Scottish Rite, York Rite, Rosicrucian, and so many more of the thousands of secret societies throughout the world, they only teach to initiates that they have chosen. And they have to swear on a threat of death not to divulge these secrets to anybody else. And from reading this book, the material about the Kabbalah mirrors the material by the Theosophist Society, Helena Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, Annie Besant, and Morals and Dogma from Albert Pike, and other books on the Freemasons and the Illuminati. And apparently this is all the tools, and I should say maybe magical powers, which I call witchcraft, of the Zionists to control the world, deceive the people, and maybe control outcomes of different events like 9/11 and wars and so much more. Economic collapses and other distractions, so the rest of us will be confused, which is what they say they're going to do and are doing in the Protocols of Zion and many other books I've gone over in my videos. So moving on, I keep going down these other paths. They're related to this. Essentially, these elements were perceived through contemplation and illumination, which is often presented in the Kabbalah as the transmission of a primeval revelation concerning the nature of the Torah and other religious matters. In essence, the Kabbalah is far removed from the rational and intellectual approach to religion. The Kabbalah is far removed from the rational and intellectual approach to religion. And if you read the books and documents and magazines, everything from the Lucifer magazine, published by the Lucifer Publishing Company, Helena Blavatsky, leader of the Theosophist Society, one of the creators. The Freemasonic magazines and books, and other goings-on now with the New World Order, New Age, and United Nations. They are definitely trying to eliminate Christmas, Christianity, Jesus, and those kinds of teachings from our society, in my opinion. And I read these books and I render my opinion, and you can watch the videos and seek out other material and render your own opinion. But the main thing is we need to talk about it and see what the words are in these pages. And maybe it'll help us all get on the same page. For some Kabbalists, the intellect itself became a mystical phenomenon. So we find in Kabbalah a paradoxical emphasis on the congruence between intuition and tradition. So what is intuition? Some people are gifted psychics, and they're sought out by the governments and other peoples out there in the world, and they can maybe see things in the future, know things other people don't know. And then, of course, here in the United States and the world, they put fluoride in the waters and other products that we consume, like toothpaste, and it seems to affect our pineal gland, calcifying it, which inhibits or depreciates our psychic ability. And I suspect, because I happen to know from reading some books, that during the early 1900s, 1910, 1920, the Rockefeller and the other elitist families were going out of their way to put fluoride in the water throughout the United States, and probably Europe. And during World War II, the Hitler regime put fluoride in the water of the prisoners to make them lethargic and less likely to organize and succeed at an escape. And it required fewer guards to guard them. So the fluoride and other drugs they put in the water of the prisoners apparently accomplished its task, its goal. Moving on, page 490. Nevertheless, there are elements common to Kabbalah in both Greek and Christian mysticism, and even historical links between them. So when you talk about the Kabbalah, and you talk about Christian mysticism, Christians who are into magic, they used to call them magicians. And of course, during the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, whenever they had the Inquisition, rounding up people, long lines to have them beheaded or burning them at the stake for witchcraft. Christian mysticism. The stuff was common knowledge back then, and apparently there have been efforts to purge this from the knowledge of the peoples of the world. That's important to know because, as we see here, when I keep reading, there's something more going on than we all know. You can call it Kabbalah. You can call it the Illuminati, being illuminated, Masonic organization, lodges, secretly teaching the people the material, ISIS, Osiris, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. All these esoteric secret teachings, I tend, for teaching purposes, to categorize it all as witchcraft or shamanism. And I do believe there are good shamans out there who have been operating for thousands of years in tribes from Peru to Argentina, Australia, Alaska, the Eskimos, American Indians, Mayans, all over the world. Russia, they had these tribes and these doctors, shamans, who knew about this mysticism, who knew how to go in a trance and go to the other side and get cures or solve problems for the tribe. So I can't say that I'm anti-mysticism or shamanism. Look at Jesus healing people. But when they keep these knowledges to themselves and they want to eliminate our belief in God, so we don't pray, which works, by the way. That's why they don't want you to pray. According to Rabbi Marvin Anthelman, to eliminate the opate, your belief in God. So when you have secret organizations and societies running our world with an aim to rule the world, as what it says in Revelation and other books and ancient documents, the Bible, from Mount Zion, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem, then I get a little concerned. So that's why I chose the topic Kabbalah, and it's going to get more interesting as I read along. Like other kinds of mysticism, Kabbalah too draws upon the mystic awareness of both the transcendence of God and his immanence within the true religious life, every facet of which is a revelation of God, although God himself is most clearly perceived through man's introspection. This dual and apparent contradictory experience of the self-concealing and self-revealing God determines the essential sphere of mysticism, while at the same time it obstructs other religious conceptions. The second element in Kabbalah is that of theophacy, which seeks to reveal the mysteries of the hidden life of God and the relationship between the divine life on the one hand and the life of man and creation on the other. So a lot of us, a third of the world, are Christians. And we were taught since we were children about God and Jesus dying on the cross for our sins. Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden. Moses going up the mountain, seeing the burning bush, coming down with the 2 tablets, the 10 commandments. And the Hebrews at the bottom of the mountain, while they were waiting, I guess got bored, and they collected all the gold, and they built a golden calf, and they started worshiping it, having a drunken party. When Moses came down the mountain, he was so angry he smashed the tablets. My point is, the religion that they were celebrating or worshiping, the golden calf, is part of the pagan and theosophitical religion, not all, but generally speaking, which is theophacy, the teachings in Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, and apparently the religion of the Kabbalah and other documents and books, again, which I will combine and call all of it witchcraft, only because it's secrets and magic and power that they have that they don't want us to know about. And it's easier for me to explain it to people, to categorize it in that little box, which of course, if you really think about it, it's much broader than that. And of course, Jesus was doing good when he was healing people, having these abilities and knowledge, and casting out demons and spirits, and all that. Seeing the future. And Jesus would say what was going to happen the next day, and it did. And his disciples tried to emulate him, do what he did. He was teaching them, but they couldn't do as well as he did, and they complained. They said, Jesus, you can do all these things, but we don't do them as well as you do. And of course, Jesus said, ye of little faith. And he said, in the future, you will do greater things than I. So basically what I'm saying is, our minds and the power of our thinking is great. We can do greater things. And so it's important that we all wake up and see the world for what it is right now, and what these people are into, and what Zionism means. What World War III means if it's coming, which seems like it's looming from all the threats in the media. All right, continuing on. In its form, the Kabbalah became to a large extent an esoteric doctrine. So the Kabbalah, teachings of the secret knowledge, became an esoteric doctrine, which means secret. Mystical and esoteric elements coexist in Kabbalah. So you got mystical, magic, secret knowledge that these people had, and secret elements things they knew and know that they don't want you to know, coexist in the Kabbalah in a highly confused manner. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I've read books on the Kabbalah. I put the book down after reading it thoroughly, and I do not believe I gained any kind of insight, and I think that was intentional. By its very nature, mysticism is knowledge that cannot be communicated directly, but may be expressed only through symbols and metaphor. So think about that. All these Illuminati symbols we see everywhere. Symbols of the sun. The all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. The 3 sixes covering the eye. And so many more. The hidden hand. All these secret things. Out there in public. On billboards. TV shows that you watch and you don't even know you're being mind controlled. They put this performance on and make assumptions. And a lot of people from childhood on believe those assumptions, and they don't look into it. Esoteric knowledge, however, in theory, can be transmitted, but those who possess it are either forbidden to pass it on or do not wish to pass it on. So if you knew about some magic techniques, hypnotizing people, mesmerizing people, controlling people, would you want to just tell everybody you could do that? Or would you use it for your own selfish, evil purposes, which appears that is what is going on in the world right now? If you talk about all this crazy rituals, like the Bohemian Grove where Alex Jones went in there and videoed it, the cremation of care. They throw a baby in a fire under a giant owl, Moloch. And these things, so-called, with all these other people abducting children for rituals, Aleister Crowley, killing them and other deviant things with children. And he was known as the evilest man alive. So I'm saying, if they have these magic rituals and knowledge, and are they using it for their own power and gain? And are the rest of us sheep, being deceived and fooled? I don't know about anybody else, but I don't like to be deceived and fooled. Moving on. So those who have the knowledge are forbidden to pass it on, or do not wish to pass on that knowledge. The Kabbalists stress this esoteric aspect by imposing all kinds of limitations on the propagations of their teachings. So the Zionist Jewish people and a lot of other people into witchcraft, the Illuminati, and all kinds of secret societies do not want the propagation of this knowledge. They don't want you to know. Either with regard to the age of the initiates, the ethical qualities required of them, or the number of students before whom these teachings could be expounded. So that was the end of page 490. I'll hold this up so if you want to pause your computer, you can do so and read what I said to verify what I said. Print out the page. I thought of an analogy that would probably be prudent, and that would be how shamans, these mystical men in Peru, for example, I read a book on this, were chosen, and what their duties were, and what some of them did with that knowledge. So in Peru, the shaman may be getting old on in age, and they would have to select a new shaman, a child, usually a young boy. And how this happened was, apparently, some spiritual entity or a dream came to the child, woke him up at night and said, "You're going to be the next shaman." And of course, as you would expect, a little boy would say, "I don't want to be the next shaman." It's pretty scary stuff. And whether you call it an angelic being or a spiritual being or even maybe the older Shama, they would say, well, then if you will not be the new Shama, you shall surely die. So, of course, the young boy said, okay, I'll be the next Shama. And he would go into his initiation and be illuminated and begin his teachings. And it would take years. But my point is, so here he becomes the Shama. He knows how to go into mystical states, trances, take some kind of vine or peyote, mushroom, some kind of drug, and go into a trance and go into this spiritual reality and get cures maybe for a sick child or solve some problem for the tribe. So he was a very powerful man. Alright, so you got a Shama doing his job. Now, the question is, are there good Shamas and are there bad Shamas? Are there people who will service to others and do their duty? And are there people who learn this stuff and decide, wow, I can use this to my advantage? Maybe the Shama will fall in love with this attractive woman of the tribe. And he will conjure up some magic potion or some kind of activity so that her husband gets killed maybe in a hunting accident or some kind of drug. So he can pursue and have the wife. So you see what I'm saying is, when these people get this knowledge, they have a choice what they're going to do with it. Even in now with the Catholic Church and all the shenanigans they've been accused of, apparently what some of the priests did, we can't say that all these people, because they belong to these organizations, are good or bad. But we need to know that these people within these organizations, with this knowledge and this power, can use it for their own gain. And with the New Age and the New World Order and the Illuminati and Zionism and all these other secret societies, lodges and cults, Knights of Columbus, and so many more, all over the world, we have to be aware that it seems they do have a malevolent, sinister plan for humanity. There's sky spraying chemicals in the sky. Do they tell us what they're dumping and why? No. They're developing all these HAARP, microwave, and sonic transmitters. They can cause earthquakes and change the weather. Do they admit they have that technology and what they're going to do with it? No. They don't think we deserve to know anything. So I'm going to get back to the Kabbalah here and try to say that's my point of view. The knowledge does exist, and they do not want the rest of us to know about it. So maybe if I keep reading, we'll find out a little bit more about what it really involves. So I'm going to jump ahead a couple pages and try to show what it really involves and make my point that we all should be aware of this. All right. Page 503. Says here, concerning the garment of light, in which the Holy One, blessed be He, wrapped Himself at the moment of creation. So you got some godlike entity creating having a garment of light in which the Holy One, blessed be He, wrapped Himself at the moment of creation. So is there this being, this God, who wrapped Himself up in light, a light being, at the moment of creation? How did He create the reality? Well, it tells us a little bit about that in the Kabbalah. The ascent and passage through the first 6 palaces are described at length in the Heliahalat, Rabbitia, I'm saying that wrong, which details of all the technical and magical means which assist the ascending spirit and save it from the dangers lying in wait for it. So we have ascending spirits, and it has to be aware of the dangers that are lying in wait for it. These are in the Kabbalah teachings. These dangers were given much emphasis in all Merkabah traditions. So Merkabah is another tradition or teaching of the Kabbalah. There are many books the Jewish people have, like the Zohar, the Torah, the Talmud, and we'll talk about those. They didn't want to publish any of those Jewish books in English for many years, and when they did get published and the locals in Europe, for example, found out what was in those books, there was a lot of problems, and the Jewish people suffered repercussions. Hence, for 1,000, 2,000 years, their rituals, their teachings, and their activities caused them a lot of problems wherever they were, Germany, Spain, all over Europe. They had to migrate around south of Russia, east of Russia, over towards Europe, down to Spain, wherever they went. I think about 92 different countries either ran them out of the country or made them wear badges or made laws that they couldn't own land and all kinds of other things because of their activities. What were those activities? What did they do with the secret knowledge they had? And of course, it doesn't mean all Jewish people. There were a lot of Jewish people opposed to this, as we will find out. It was like a battle in the Jewish camp of the people who wanted to turn away from God and go in a more liberated path. They didn't like the Ten Commandments. And I think in the Jewish teachings, there were like 220-something rules for living. So they didn't like that. They didn't want to follow God's words or their prophets' teachings. These dangers were given much emphasis in all Merkabah teachings, traditions. Empty visions meet the ascending soul, and angels of destruction try to confound it. Empty visions meet the ascending soul. So here you are in some kind of trance, going up towards the heavens. And so empty visions meet the ascending soul, and angels of destruction try to confound it. So if you're going to get into the illuminated state and try to get into this other dimension of the spiritual realm, you better be prepared and know what you're doing. And I've gone over that in previous books. At the gates of all the palaces, it must show the doorkeepers the seals. So you have to have some kind of seal if you're going to get through these portals into these other dimensions, which are the secret names of God. So if you know the secret names of God, apparently it gives you incredible, and I'm using this word so we can understand it, it gives you incredible witchcraft powers. I don't believe Jesus was a witch, but he obviously had the knowledge, and he used those powers for good. But predominantly in the world we live in today, I don't see too many people making these teachings public, and they're using it for their own advantage and world domination. So I call it witchcraft. So empty visions meet the ascending soul, and angels of destruction try to confound it. At the gates of the palaces, and must show the doorkeepers the seals, which are the secret names of God, or pictures imbued with magical powers. So these are images with magical powers, some of which are extant in the Gnostic Pistos Sophia, which protect it from attack. So there are amulets and other kinds of symbols we can use, or I should say the Illuminati people use, or like we all know it as like a 4-leaf clover or a rabbit's foot, but these people have these amulets with these secret designs on them to give them power or protect them. A lot of people don't know this stuff exists. That's why I'm going over this particular topic. The dangers especially increase in number at the entrance to the 6th palace. So the higher you move up into these other dimensions, the greater the danger. Where it appears to the Merkabah mystic, called a magician, as if 100 million waves pour down. So if you get to the sixth palace in the spiritual realm, and I'm doing a little bit of translating this in a way that I think we can all understand. It feels as if 100 million waves of water pour down on you. So that would be your spiritual self is impacted like a whole ocean fell on you. Yet there is not a single drop of water there. So crossing over that entrance into the sixth palace is a pretty powerful event. Only the splendor of the pure marble stones which pave the palace. That's all that's there, no water. It is to this danger in the ecstatic ascent that the words of our Akiva refer in the story of the fool who enter paradise. The story of the fool who enter paradise. When you come to the place of the pure marble stones, do not say water, water. The text also mentioned a fire which proceeds from his own body and consumes it. Sometimes the fire is seen as a danger, and at other times it is an ecstatic experience which accompanies the entry into the first palace. My hands were burned, and I stood without hands or feet. The palace where our Akiva and his companions entered is the world of the celestial garden of Eden, or the realm of the heavenly palaces, and the ascent or rapture is common to several Jewish apocalypses. So there are many apocalyptic teachings, and the apocalyptic teachings are, according to my reading this and trying to understand for myself, is that at some point in time there will be a great disaster overcoming humanity, and there will be the punishment of all of evil and eliminating evil from the world. Apocalyptic event. So these ancient teachings had a different apocalyptic event teachings. Moving on here, in contrast to the dangers which attend those who, although unfit for them, so some people who get into magic attempt to go to these places in the other dimensions, and they are not fit. Again, I'm just interpreting here. Indulge in these matters and the magical science of theology. Great emphasis is laid on the illumination which comes to the recipients of the revelations. There was light in my heart like lightning. He says there was light in his heart like lightning. And the world changed into purity around me, and my heart felt as if I had entered a new world. Moving on. An early passage enumerating the basic subjects of the mystery of the chariot is to be found in the Midrash to Proverbs 10. So you can go look in the Bible, Proverbs 10, and the Midrash, which I need to thoroughly investigate that more to tell you what it is. But they have this vision of something like a chariot in the sky. And the best way for me to explain it, think of it as a UFO gigantic mothership. And these humans wanted to ascend up into it. And that they call that the chariot. That's in a lot of their documentation. So that's where they perceived God was sitting in this gigantic chariot or gigantic UFO mothership. The subjects mentioned are the Hashmal, the lightning, the cherub. The cherub are those little angel beings with wings. We've all seen the paintings. The throne of glory. So in this chariot, where this God is, there is this man sitting on it, and it's on a throne of glory. the bridges in the Merkabah, and the measurements of the limbs from my toenails to the top of my head. So they had all these descriptions of this god. Among these are ideas concerning the par god, curtain or veil. So they had this big veil that you had to go through to see this god, which separates the one who sits on the throne from the other parts of the chariot, upon which are embroidered the archetypes of everything that is created. There are different, highly colored traditions concerning the par god. Some take it to be a curtain which prevents the ministering angels from seeing the glory, while others hold that the seven angels that were created first continue their ministry inside the par god. So in this gigantic chariot is this other area that veils off that who sits on the throne, and these other angels are in that particular area. Just translating it the best I can. And the angels who were created first, continuing their ministry inside the par god. There was no fixed angelology, so they didn't have a fixed religion concerning angels at this particular time, and different views and indeed complete systems have been preserved, ranging from those found in the Ethiopia book of Enoch to the Hebrew book of Enoch, found among the literature of the Heikalot, Heikhalot. These ideas occupy a considerable place in the extant Merkabah literature, and as would be expected, they reappear in various forms in the practical nature in incantations. So they're using incantations, not to be silly, but things like hocus pocus or abracadabra, just so everybody understands what I'm saying. They had a combination of words and vowels, and even symbols and shapes that gave them magical powers. Various forms in practical nature in incantations and theological literature. Knowledge of the names of the angels were already part of the mysticisms of the Essenes. So this goes all the way back to Jesus' time. And it developed in both Rabbinic and heterodox circles up to and at the end of the Genoic period. Again, I'll have to figure out when those time frames are. I've got a lot of pages to read on the Kabbalah here, so I'm sure I'll be making numerous videos if you really want to know about this stuff. These are the people who rule our world right now. These are the people who are dumping the chemicals in the sky, spraying chemtrails. These are the people who are creating genetically modified foods. These are the people who are into cloning genetics. These are the people who started World War I, World War II. These are the people who want to bring about a new age and a new world order. And I think these are the people that are mentioned in the Bible that are evil. They teach this Kabbalah material. And I'm sure I'm only touching the surface so far. I've only read half a dozen pages. Of the Encyclopedia Judaica. One of the names of God in this literature is Tot Rashai, which signifies the tetras of the four letters of the name YHWH, Yiwa. So these secret names of God, and you contemplate on them, you meditate on them, and they're supposed to give you powers. So, you know, when I tell people, they tell me that they hear God speaking to them. God speaks to me. And I believe that they might be hearing something, or seeing something, and dreaming something. But my cautionary flag tells me, whoa, 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 who is it you're communicating with? Is it an angelic good being? Is it a demonic evil being? The demonic evil being's not going to tell us he's demonic and evil. He's going to try to deceive us. And even Jesus said in the Bible, you need to test the spirits. And again, when I say these things like that sentence there, you should not believe me. You should get on your computer and type in, Jesus said, test the spirits, and see where it came from. Please do not believe me. Anyways, moving on. The different tendencies of Merkaba, mysticism, established ways of contemplating ascent to the heavens, ways which were understood in their literal sense. I skipped ahead a little bit, but I can jump back and catch it. And it's still inclusive to what I was talking about. But moving on, after the mysticism of the Essenes, and it developed in both Rabbinic and heterodox circles up to the end of Genoic period, together with the concept of the 4 and 7 key angels. There developed about the end of the 1st or the beginning of the 2nd century a new doctrine concerning the angel Metatron. So they had an angel called Metatron, the Prince of the Presence, who is none other than Enoch himself, after his flesh had been transformed into flaming torches, and the place assigned to him above all the other angels. So again, when we know in our reality where they're trying to eliminate Christianity, Christmas, belief in God, and discredit Jesus, saying he really didn't exist. Well, let me tell you, in the Encyclopedia Judaica, these things do exist. And that should concern anyone as to what to believe. With that said, I'll keep reading. At the beginning of the Tanionic period, speculations are found concerning the angel who bore within him the name of God himself. The angel Yahoel, who occupies the dominant position of the apocalyptic of Abraham. So this story about the end times or creation or what goes on in the meantime. Everything said here of Yohal was transferred in another circle to Metatron, this other leader of the angels, to whom the mystics assigned many other secret names, most important of which were Yahweh and the lesser Yahweh, YHWH. So we've all heard that word, many of us. So they have these secret names of angels they can call on or meditate on, and apparently gain some kind of assistance and powers. I question to anybody watching this video, is that important? Should we know that? Should we believe what's in the Encyclopedia Judaica and all the other books out there on these topics? Should we believe the God-believing rabbis and teachers who are warning us about these bad people, who want to create a one world order and a new age, who want to depopulate the planet, and who have killed mercilessly all over the planet, taking over gold mines, coal mines, countries, factories, whole countries, taking over the banking system, like the Federal Reserve in 1913 by the Illuminati. These people will do anything to control everything and keep that knowledge from everyone else. And they use distraction, events, terror events, political elections, Hillary and Trump. They use all kinds of distractions. So people aren't paying attention to the eliminating of the populations over in the Middle East, like Syria right now. What I'm trying to say there is there are people who are planning and thinking and doing these things, and they know very well what they're doing, and they have lots of power and resources to accomplish their aims and their goals. And again, this stuff is in the Bible. It's prophesized. Moving on here. Metatron also took upon himself several of the duties of the angel Michael. And from the Amorite period onward, he was identified with the prince of the world. Well, this starts to indicate to me that we're talking about Lucifer and Satan. Under many names: Moloch, Ra, Isis, Osiris, Horus. They do try to fool we the people all over the planet. His title, Hanyana, which means the boy, refers to his role as servant of God and is based on the logistic usage of the Bible. Metatron and his role as servant to the chariot. So this high archangel, put above all the other angels, was apparently a servant of the chariot in the sky, which apparently this God sat on a throne. In Merkaba literature, the names of the angels easily intermingled with the secret names of God. I'm going to keep throwing this word out there. Witchcraft. How do these powers work? These names, these vowels, these consonants, these vibrations. What can they do? What kind of entities can they evoke? What is the truth about reality? So I study these books and share it with my videos. Maybe together we can figure it out. If you got any assistance in the comment section, please leave a comment for me. And a lot of people out there have left some great comments and have helped me move forward with my education, my research, acquiring other books like Harry Hubbard. When somebody recommended him, led me to these books, which were published in 1971, probably by the governmental powers in Israel. This was supposed to be an all-encompassing encyclopedia about the entire history of the Jewish people. And I'm sure they sugarcoated a lot of stuff in these encyclopedias to make them look really good, like it said in this other book here. I think I read it when they declared that the magnificent Rothschilds, the leader of the Illuminati, the bankster to the world, the guy who makes in the families, the Illuminati family, the people who are illumined into the Kabbalah and other Rosicrucian, Masonic, Illuminati, secret mystery schools of Babylon, apparently of Lucifer teachings, demonology, which we will find a little bit about that here in this book. The formula, the Lord, God of Israel, is very often added to the particular name. But many of the chief angels have been added to their names. So they have the names of God and they have the secret names of angels to call upon. And remember, in the Bible it says when Lucifer was cast from heaven, wherever heaven is, whatever that other dimension is, 1/3 of the angels were cast out with Lucifer. So who are these people into this illuminated secret societies where they take oaths under threat of death not to divulge to the rest of us, with all these symbols that we all see everywhere? The triangle, the swastika. You can go look up occult symbols on Yahoo image site and you'll see. The star with the circle, the witch's symbol. The 13 ruins, the 13 stones the Druids use. The witchcraft covens, the groups everywhere where they practice their rituals. 13 witches to a coven. And I could go on with 13 and numbers like 7 and 666. And we'll go over these topics again and again until I figure it out, which of course I probably never will. So anyways, the Hebrew Enoch, so it cannot be deduced from this whether the phrase refers to the name of an angel or to the name of God. Sometimes the same name serves to designate both God and an angel. An example of this is Asborgod, an eightfold name in which 8 pairs of letters add up to Germanica. Germanica is where you add up the letters. A equals 6, B equals 12, C equals 18. You just keep adding 6. There are other forms of Germanica, but they use this also for magic and prophecy purposes. To the number 8. This eightfold name reflects the Gnostic concept of the Oldas, the 8th firmament, and I think the firmament means another dimension, the earth, and then a higher dimension would be the 1st firmament, 3rd firmament, 4th firmament. These other dimensions, as mentioned in the Kabbalah teachings of the Sephirot. The eightfold name of the Gnostic, the eightfold name reflects the Gnostic concept of Oldas, the 8th firmament above the 7 firmaments, where the divine wisdom dwells. And I'm only reading my highlighted portion, so if it seems like I'm jumping around, I am jumping around. I'm just trying to read these sentences and translate them the best I can, so we all can get a better idea of what the Kabbalah is. What are these secret teachings and books? The Zohar, the Midrash, the Talmud, the Kabbalah books. And there are books on witchcraft, and there are books that the Rosicrucians use. The Albert Pike and the Scottish Rite Freemasons, Morals and Dogma. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of books published by the Freemasons. But if you read these teachings, you keep seeing the same thing in a different light. It also occurs in the list of the mysterious names of the angel Metatron. It is found with a similar meaning in the Mandaic literature. The dialogue between the mystic and the angel Dumiel at the gate of the 6th palace in the Helot Rabiat is conducted in Greek. This is where I jumped over earlier. One of the names of God in this literature is Tot Rashai, which signifies the tetras, that would be the double triangle. And if you look up or watch my videos on the Palladians, this double triangle thing apparently can levitate in the air and start turning on its own, creating some kind of communication or portal with other beings, the tetras. And also this would have talking about the 4 letters of the name of Yhweh, Y-H-W-H. The reverse parallel to this is the name Arbate, which is found frequently on the magic papyrus of this period. The different tendencies of Merkabah mysticism established ways of contemplating ascent to heaven, ways that were understood in their literal sense. So could these people ascend to heaven, to this chariot in the sky? What does all this mean? This is not fiction. It's not a comic book. It's the Encyclopedia Judaica. Moving on, the magical element was strong in the early stages of the Helot literature, only become weaker in later redactions. So this is just a history of the Kabbalah that I'm reading now. There's much more important and powerful information to come, but we need to kind of get through some of this other stuff also, I feel. Sometimes the different palaces correspond to the ladder of ascent through the virtues. This kind of interpretation is especially evident in the remarkable mystic utterances of the 3rd century Amora. The patriots, the male leaders, are the chariot, so they have different interpretations of this. The first center for this type of mysticism was in Palestine, where a large part of the Hillelite literature was written. So in Palestine, before they created the state of Israel in 1946, there were a lot of Hebrews, Jews there, who had a Palestinian version of this mysticism. Mystical ideas found their way to Babylon, and at least as early as the time of Rav, and their influence is recognizable among other places in the magical incantations which were ascribed on bowls, so plates or bowls you eat with, to afford protection from evil spirits and demons, which reflect popular Babylonian Judaism from the end of the Talmudic period to the time of the Genome. In Babylonia, apparently a number of magical prayers were composed, as well as treatises on magic. So they had books on magic back then. Again, I ask, what do people know? What do people believe? Do we believe in aliens and UFOs? Do we believe in God and Jesus? Do we believe in angels and demons? I think a lot of people would like to get to the bottom of this and understand what is the reality that we live in. I think this human body is a vehicle, and I have a spirit, a soul inside, and this reality I'm living is a gift. Maybe some kind of school. Different theories on that. But I think we can all agree the evil going on in the world, the wars and the murder and poisoning and toxification of foods, the pesticides, the herbicides, the weather control, all this stuff. GMO foods, sky spraying, HARP system, transmitters, spying on the people everywhere, and planning some kind of imprisoned planet. I think we can all agree we don't like that and it's wrong. I don't think God intended for the earth to be that kind of place. But then again, you have to ask yourself, which God are these people praying to, and what angels or demons are they communicating with, getting assistance from with their mysticism and magic? Reading on here, some of which was written in Babylonian Aramaic, and all these, the influences of the Merkabah, another book, ideas was very strong. So the Merkabah ideas were very strong. In Palestine, perhaps at the end of the Talmudic period, the Sephar was composed, which contains descriptions of the firmaments, that would be the other dimensions, greatly influenced by the Hillelite literature, while the practical part concerning incantations. So do they really have incantations mentioned in this Encyclopedia Judaica? Is there really witchcraft and magic? Do these people who want to take over the world have this kind of power and resource at their disposal? Communication with demonic beings? Just asking. I'll try to finish up this video. Another paragraph to go, or column I should say. From circles such as those emanated from magical usages, from circles such as those emanated the magical usage of the Torah and Psalms for practical purposes. So again, if you go look up witch's circle, Yahoo image site, or just on the internet, we've all seen the circle with the star in the middle. Witchcraft circles. Some of them have six-pointed stars and other kinds of symbols. And some very evil things go on during these satanic rituals. If you start investigating it, you may learn things you don't want to learn. This practice was based on the theory that essentially these books were made up from the sacred names of God and His angels. So would the good God, the God I believe in, the Father of Jesus, the teachings of the Ten Commandments, would He want these other beings to have these sacred names to use for their own power and gain on the planet, ruling over others? I think not. So we must conclude, in my opinion, that we're dealing with evil beings, and if the Bible's correct and Lucifer was cast out of heaven, whatever that other firmament was, with a third of the angels, these must be the characters involved. Just trying to use my own 2 cents. You can come up with your own theory. Leave a comment below and maybe we'll figure it out. Moving on here. The poetic content of the literature and the Mashan, Merkaba, and the Masha Borshit is striking. We have already noted the hymns sung by the Hayat and the ministering angels in praise of their Creator. So I've been learning when they have hymns and poems, they're actually incantations and magical rituals. They made these poems and hymns. So a lot of us, when we listen to music right now, if we pay attention to words, we can see that that's true. It's a demonic influence on all of us. And a lot of people have heard of records. If you play them backwards, you hear some kind of demon speaking. So the people who control our word are using these kinds of powers against us. Make no mistake about that. That should be pretty much accepted concept to anybody if they just pay attention to the TV, the movies, billboards, magazines, all this other crazy false flag terror events. We are under attack. There should be no mistake about that. There is a planned new world order, new currency, one world religion, microchipping the people. This all seems to be common knowledge these days. And now everybody has the little credit card that you have to slide into the credit card machine, scan it. And now they're saying that that's actually not safe. I was seeing some alternate news on that. So that was a stepping stone to have to probably put the microchip in your arm or your forehead, as prophesied. Alright, moving on. So they got these hymns sung and ministering angels in praise of the Creator. So these people who are into this Kabbalah stuff are singing hymns and praises to their Creator. So is their God Lucifer? Or do they think that the real God of humanity and reality wants them to enslave the rest of us? I don't believe that. They didn't send Jesus for those purposes. And Jesus mentioned all this stuff I'm talking about. A lot of it. Following the pattern of several of the Psalms, a view was developed that the whole of creation, according to its nature and order, was singing hymns of praise. Again, we're talking about incantations. And so some of the prayers and hymns to God may be good ones, like if you go to church and you have to sing your praise and hymns to God. But some of these other people into this witchcraft, Kabbalah, Illuminati, and other secret societies may have hymns and prayers to demonic beings, like King Solomon with his magic ring, which he called forth demons, is where he got his power, and they built the first King Solomon temple. Part of the literature in the Freemasonic books written by Albert Pike and many others. The hymnology, so they even have an ology for it, instead of angelology and demonology, they got hymnology, was established in the various versions of the Perek Shah, which without any doubt derives from mystical circles in the Talmudic period. Connected with this poetic element is the influence of the Merkabah mystics had on the development of specific portions of the order of prayer. So these poems and prayer were designed and developed for the phonetics, the consonants, the vowels, the speech, to have certain mathematical Germanica formulas to assist them in their endeavors or make things happen. Witchcraft. Jewish Gnostic and the Sefer Yetzirah. In these stages of the Jewish mysticism, the descriptions of the chariot, this abode in the sky, and its world occupy a place in the non-Jewish Gnosticism, is filled with the theory of the aeons, A-E-O-N-S. So even the non-Jewish people had their own version of this pagan religion, and these beings in the sky, aeons, the powers and emanations of God, which fill the pleroma, the divine fullness. This way in which certain middot, or qualities of God, like wisdom, understanding, knowledge, truth, faith, righteousness, became the aeons, of the Gnostics is paralleled in the tradition of the Masha Boreshit. The 10 sayings by which the world was created, Merkabah mysticism, became divine qualities according to those served before the throne of glory, thus taking the place occupied by the Hayat and the presiding angels of the Merkabah system, the Jewish Kabbalah system, one of them. The semi-mythological speculations of the Gnostics, which regarded the qualities of the aeons, were not admitted into the rabbinic tradition of the Talmud and the Midrashim, but they did find a place in the more or less heterodox sects of the Menon. Almost done here with this video. So they had the Dead Sea Scrolls, have tried to prove that Jewish forms of Gnostics, which retained a belief in the unity of God and rejected any dualistic notions, came into being before the formation of Christianity and were centered particularly around the idea of primordial man. This is all Theophist Society teaching, Theophist religion by Helena Blavatsky, Alice Beatty, Annie Besant, and the others. Colonel Olcott, back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. Same material that's in Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma is the same material, from my reading it, that is in here under the Kabbalah. And all this is part of the tools or religion, apparently, of the New World Order, New Age, one world government, one world currency, and enslaving the rest of us as described in the Protocols of Zion. So if you start reading all these books and documents or watching my previous videos, a lot of this stuff starts to repeat itself. Seems to be that these angels and demons and beings that can be manifested with emanations and incantations of rituals and other objects seems to me likely to be the UFOs and aliens and reptilians and other beings mentioned in all the other books I've read and videos I made. Seems to be all one and the same. I don't think there's two separate realities, which I've been saying for a long time. So you had the Dead Sea Scrolls and a formation of Christianity, and were centered particularly around the idea of primordial man. The image of the Messiah, characteristic of the Christian Gnostics, was absent here. So then they got a Mr. Friedleiter had surmised the antinomial Gnostics' tendencies, which belittled the value of the commandments. So they were belittling the commandments, which I've been saying before. The people, the God-fearing Jewish people who turned away from God and the Ten Commandments were not happy, and they created what is called a reformed religion. Sabbatin and Frankist, all that described in detail in Rabbi Marvin Antelman's books, Volume 1, Volume 2, To Eliminate the Opaque, Bloody Zion, and so many other books I went over, and books I still have to go over. And also developed within Judaism before the rise of Christianity. So we know Jesus was born about 2,000 years ago. And it was 2,000 years before that that the Hebrews, or a little bit after that, were aided by Moses to escape the imprisonment of the Egyptians, the Pharaoh. So there's 4,000 years of history that most people can understand. One last paragraph, and I'll do another video on this Kabbalah. I suppose there'll be many videos. I'm getting tired of speaking now. The apostasy of the Tana, Elisha Ayuda, to a Gnostic dualism of this kind is connected to the Merkabah. Again, this Jewish book on the Kabbalah, a version of it, the mystic and spiritual teachings. Tradition with the vision of Metatron, so that leading angel, seated on a throne like God. So I think that Lucifer, or Satan, wants to be on a throne like God. It just brings questions to my mind. Mandaic literature also contains strands of a Gnostic, monotheistic, non-Christian character, which many believe originated in the Transjordanian Jewish heterodox sect, whose members immigrated from Babylonia in the 1st and 2nd century. Well, I hope that all made some sense to you. That's only 3 pages of probably 100 pages on the Kabbalah. I'll show you some pictures here. I have to read and understand what they are. This promises to be an interesting investigation. More pictures that involve the Kabbalah. And I will try to research and understand these topics and pictures and images and writings the best I can and pass them on in my videos. No small task. More pictures under the Kabbalah. As you can see, I haven't read these pages yet. But these encyclopedias seem to me to be an invaluable resource in the descriptions and the pictures. But I must admit to myself that the people who created the Encyclopedia Judaica, the complete history of the Jewish peoples worldwide, probably were not going to put the bad intentions in these books for the rest of us to read. So I have to be careful not to make any assumptions and just read and interpret the best I can, combining that knowledge with a lot of other books and material I've researched in the past 12 years. So thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.